This meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, with the meeting notice advertised in the Trenton Times and provided to the Trenton Times and the Hunterdon County Democrat and members on the listserv. This meeting will be recorded using the Zoom meeting platform. The meeting agenda provides for action items at the extent known at the time of publication. Would you like roll call, Mayor?
I would, please.
Councilwoman Lambert?
Here.
Councilman Sanders?
Here.
Councilman Stegman?
Here.
Council President Taylor?
Here.
Mayor Noack?
Here. All right, let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and then continue standing for a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And in our moment of silence tonight, let us, maybe each of us think of a single word to describe the state of the city, at least for yourself. Thank you. Well, let's just dive right in and begin with the approval of the meeting minutes. I'd like to see if there is a motion to approve the following sets of minutes. December 2nd, 2021, the open meeting minutes, and December 16th, 2021, the open meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I am ineligible to vote, so I will not vote on that. Next, I will ask for a motion to approve the following set of minutes, the January 4th, 2022 reorganization meeting minutes.
So
Do I have a
moved.
Go ahead.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to just take a moment to thank Cindy Iggy for these minutes, which are epic in their length and complexity. So thank you. Brilliant job, as always. How long are those minutes? They're like 36 pages or something, right? Yeah.
Does the whale die at the end?
I've never gotten to the end.
was 78 pages.
78 pages. Wow.
Wow.
Well done.
Thank you.
It felt like more.
All right. Our consent agenda tonight. I would ask for a motion to approve the first of all, if there are any questions about the consent agendas, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll ask for a motion to approve the resolutions listed on the consent agenda, numbers 30-2022 through 36-2022. You had a chance to look these over earlier?
Yeah.
Let me make a motion?
Yes, please. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next resolution is Resolution 37-2022. This is a resolution supporting the recommendations of the New Jersey Department of Transportation's Bureau of Traffic Engineering with respect to implementing certain traffic and pedestrian safety regulations along Route 29 in the city. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
I do have a question.
Yep, I'm sorry.
So I'm assuming the state approached the city about this?
Yes.
Okay, and is the state funding this?
Yes.
Okay, good answer.
The state funded a couple of things this week, so that's good.
A follow-up question. So this is putting into paper what's already been done as far as striping and parking and not parking along 29.
It's signage.
With signage.
It's the signage that the state's requesting.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. If there are no other questions, may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 38-2022. This resolution will authorize the city clerk to submit the person-to-person transfer of state-assigned license number 1017-33-003-003 from Taverna 54 North Franklin Street to Bluestone Building LLC effective January 25th, 2022.
So this is from where Deanna's had been. That's Taverna bought that, and then it's going to whom and to where?
It's going to, saying that Taverna, it's not a place to place, this is just a person to person.
Okay.
So you have a place called Bluestone Building LLC who's purchasing the license
Yeah,
from Taverna 54, who never opened.
okay, okay.
Any other questions? If not, may I have a motion, please?
So moved?
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 39-2022. This is a resolution to authorize the contract with Suburban Consulting Engineering Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $62,680 for work on Hurricane Ida. Are there questions about this?
This is work already done.
Yes, this is primarily work.
Some.
Yeah, well, I should say primarily, but there's some done this year as well. But this is work that was identified following Ida in 2021, and some for emergency work in this calendar year. Are there other questions regarding this?
No.
No? If not, may I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the bills list, here we are. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the bills list.
Mayor, we have one
oops, yeah,
addition.
I'm sorry, that's right, I forgot to mention that. So there is one addition to the bills list, Hunt and Faraday, in the amount of $2,278.55. Okay. Are there any questions about the bills list? If not, may I have a motion to approve the bills list?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And here we have an ordinance, first reading, introduction. This is ordinance number 01-2022. An ordinance authorizing the execution of a lease agreement between the City of Lambertville and Richard Crane for the use of the Lily Street apartment, property owned by the city and located at 6 Lily Street, block 1074, lot 2. Any questions about this?
This is the same tenant.
It is.
And so why,
Different funding.
Different, yeah, it's a different funding source.
He was funded in under a different manner before, and now it's going to the source has changed.
okay.
Just out of curiosity, does he count as one of our affordable housing credits? I thought so.
Yes. Other questions? Okay, if not, may I have a motion
So
to
moved.
introduce on first reading?
So moved.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Good. I will announce that the public hearing for this is scheduled for February 17th, 2022. At the moment, we have no ordinances on second reading and no public hearing tonight. And with that, I will give the State of the City address. I've been thinking about the speech for a couple of weeks now. I've always marveled at the audacity of a president to begin his State of the Union speech with a single adjective. And maybe in tonight's moment of silence, you came up with a single adjective for the state of the city as you see it. But try as I might, I could not find a single word. Here are 6 words that will frame my thoughts this evening. Battered, recovering, overextended, changing, supported, and hopeful. The city is battered. Ida came with a ferocity that will be remembered all our lives. In a few short hours, scores of families were rescued or fled from their flood-ravaged homes. Dozens of businesses were destroyed, and city infrastructure was mangled almost out of recognition. Since that awful day of tears and grief and worry, I've spoken to hundreds of residents. I have read the 426 damage reports filed with the city by our people and our businesses. I've walked the creeks end to end and visited the 20-odd municipal sites that need our attention. The city is battered. Of the 16 houses across from Basil Bandwagon, only 1 or 2 have seen the return of occupants. Village Apartments is a ghost town. The backyards of houses on Swan Street are long gone, swept away. Dancing, pizza, coffee, art, music, all gone from Canal Studios. Damage in the many millions of dollars, and our people still battered, trying to figure out how or if a return is even possible. Not to mention COVID or tax increases, which I'll get to in a minute. The city is recovering. Triage began before the water receded. Hundreds of neighbors and emergency personnel set upon the remnants and began the recovery. What Ida wrought, this city returned with an immediate counterpunch of human empathy and action. From the first "how can I help," the city has been recovering. Residents are rebuilding their homes, their lives, making decisions, finding a way. The city has identified 22 sites in need of repair or reconstruction. Business owners got to work applying for permits and are actively rebuilding. Hundreds of thousands of dollars were raised and distributed. Oh Well Cow has reopened, as has Basil Bandwagon. Both the Delaware Valley Food Pantry and Fisherman's Mark never faltered and continue to help the city and its people recover. Little by little, we recover. Recovering is a word we'll hear a lot this year. But I must caution, there will never be a full recovery. Some residents will not return, and many will continue to suffer enormous financial and emotional hardship. The creeks will never look like they did in August. Our business community may not entirely recalibrate. In ways both great and small, recovery may look more like inertia settling in, an unwanted and uninvited guest. In a fell swoop, Ida demarked the city and its people into a before and after. Something that seemed impossible became possible, and what we can't recover, we must transform into preparation and resolve. What is certainly not recovering this year is our municipal budget. The city is overextended, stretched beyond reason. And this is where I begin my mayorship. I say from the start that I'm not interested in litigating every historical explanation for this, nor is it my style to affix blame or judgment. People have told me that I'm inheriting a mess. I don't even like the word inherit. I begin each day with what's in front of me, plain and simple, a problem to be solved if it can be solved. What's in front of me, what's in front of us, is a very lousy year. And that, my friends, is an understatement. Our taxes have increased, our debt remains high, our budget is already bare bones, and at best our revenues are likely to be flat. We will have to borrow large sums of money to pay for Ida repairs. The city is not only battered by Ida and COVID, but it's battered by our financial situation. And I'd be surprised if there isn't a single household for whom this doesn't pose a concern. In ordinary terms, let's look briefly at the state of the DPW, Department of Public Works, as a living metaphor of how this city is stretched. It is important to note that some of why this department is in its difficulty has to do with our inability to fully staff it. This is hard work for little pay, and today's labor market says no thank you to these kinds of jobs. Currently, the DPW has 6 full-time employees, 5 of whom are picking up trash and recycling, leaving Lester to do everything else, including a lot of engine repairs for an ever-aging fleet. In this fleet, we have 3 trash trucks, 2 purchased in 2009, listed in poor and fair condition respectively, and our 3rd trash truck, our backup, dates to 1998. Only 4 of our 15 vehicles have been purchased in the last decade. 11 of the 15 vehicles are listed in fair, poor, or bad condition. The garage is too small, and I haven't the least idea when we last sent a single dollar over there for any kind of improvement. Looking elsewhere, City Hall, the library, the police department, the Justice Center. The city will soon receive a comprehensive review of these facilities, but it doesn't take an architect or a specialist to see that these buildings are woefully undercared for. and yet there is no identifiable way to suggest that we are good stewards of them. We have no capital improvement plan for our municipal buildings, and we allocate almost no money for their upkeep. Add to this the Clausen Farm, the purchase of which I supported, and you will find more than enough proof to know the city is living beyond its means. Last year, debt service was over $1.4 million. This year, our debt service, coupled with a lack of reserves, will be a stranglehold on every budgetary decision we make in 2022. The city is changing, and here is something I will address in each state of the city speech, because change, as we know, is constant. Last night, after a long and tiring day, I went to the bar at Bell's for dinner. I ended up having conversations with a few residents, and invariably change came up. Concerns about development, concerns about losing a way of life that seems simpler, more comforting, more neighborly. In truth, the old days are as elusive as August 30th, 2021. Lambertville is changing. Real estate values have risen, new people are coming, others are departing. There will be development. Broad demographic shifts are happening before our eyes, and there isn't always much we can do to change them. The city is changing, but it is changing through a base of well-established history and culture, and for that we can feel comforted. We should encourage the change we want to see. What does that change look like to you? The city is supported by municipal employees who show up early, stay late, mop the floors of the Justice Center after a flood. Our staff is a tremendous asset to the city. In the DPW, Lester, John, and Dave have a combined 73 years worth of service. The top members of our police force can easily match that. The city is supported by a staff in City Hall that works endlessly to file FEMA reports, correspond with residents, keep the books in order, and so on. This city is supported by the police department, the fire department, the rescue squad, the LMUA, the library, the churches, and many organizations whose missions benefit us all. This city is supported by over 100 people serving on our boards and commissions. The city is supported by residents who quietly and big-heartedly volunteer where there is need. The city is supported by its history. The city is supported by its taxpayers. The city is supported by a diverse and committed business community that is the lifeblood of our economy. The city is supported by its artists. The city is supported by the laughter of children and the dedication of teachers. The city is supported by a city council that gives most generously of its time and its wisdom. The city is supported by your mayor, who thinks sometimes making a list is the best reminder of all the good things right in front of him, all the good things right in front of us. The city is hopeful. After the ills of Pandora's box have spread wide and far, hope alights. We are hopeful because history stands guard, because residents rush to help in times of crisis, because government welcomes dissenting views, because we cherish what I think of as the patina of scrappiness that keeps us going with grit and determination toward the next moment. We are hopeful because businesses keep coming, because new residents make a difference, because long-timers keep us honest. We are hopeful because after years of tax increases and a horrendous flood, the residents of this town voted to raise their own taxes to fund new and better schools for the future children of Lambertville. We are hopeful because we know cannabis will soon fund our coffers while calming us down. We are hopeful because despite the hardship, the taxes, the worries, we are glad to be here, and because, as everyone knows, the state of the city of Lambertville is exceptional. Lambertville has a new mayor, and while the state of his mind may occasionally be called into question, his dedication will never be. In my first year, I will cement my commitment to public service with the confidence of a 57-year-old man who is not afraid of any problem or any conversation. In the year 2022, I will engage with residents, manage the recovery of Ida, collaborate with this council, shepherd the budget process openly and responsibly, improve city services, notably as they pertain to the DPW, oversee the creation of a sustained long-term mitigation and resiliency planning. I will partner with the library. I will organize the clean out of junk from City Hall. I will be present in our business community. I will work toward creating affordable housing. I will move the Clausen Farm forward to its best public use, and I will oversee the cleanup of the DPW yard. Lastly, I hope to get an open-air market started in town. All of this is a massive undertaking, but I'll meet every day with good cheer and gratitude for this community. Thank you. All right, discussion items. The list here. So it's going to be my practice to meet with each of the council members before the meetings to review the agenda items, to make sure that I'm hearing what they have to say on a specific or on any agenda item, and to incorporate their wisdom into the resulting conversation or announcement here in the meetings. So these items here may end up being almost more announcements because we've already, to some degree, resolved them. I'll call for votes on a couple of them just to formalize it. And if anybody has anything that they want to say, in particular about any of these, I'll give everybody the opportunity to weigh in. So I've spoken with each of the council members, and it appears that we all agree that we would like to use Zoom for all city council meetings in 2022. I would like to note that Cindy, I will ask Cindy or Mike, whoever's here, to keep track of the Zoom attendance. How many people do we have?
We have 41.
41 people. So if you'll kindly make a note of that for the record, I appreciate it. Based on the city council's year-end assessment of Zoom, we will approve it. We may or may not approve it in the following year. So we'll keep track of the attendance. We'll see how well this is working. The goal is to increase access at every turn, and I think that I, for one, feel very strongly about this. So unless anybody has anything to say specifically about it, I'll throw out a vote for it. Are there any questions about it from the council?
No, I'd just say that I think all of us have expressed support for this, and it's a good idea. 41 people who, could not be, especially in the era of COVID. This is really important. I'm not sure what the cost of this is, but I suspect it's modest, and it's I think would be, regardless of its modest cost, I think it's a great idea.
I agree with Councilman Sanders. There are people who, they're working all day and they have family obligations in the evening and they'd love to come in and attend, but their home situations don't always allow for it. Other people who just, are reluctant to go out in the evening. So I strongly support this.
What kind of vote are we taking exactly?
It's just a vote to say we support it. It's not I don't know that it needs to be a resolution or anything.
It's just a motion.
Just a motion. Okay. So is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of continuing on with Zoom meetings for the year 2022, raise your hand or say hi.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is just a small thing. I've spoken to all the council members about this. Lester has asked for some storage space at the Clausen, at the garage, at the base of the Clausen house, the Holcomb house. And everybody seems to be okay with that. We'll keep an eye on what he's putting in there and making sure that it's not, he's not overloading it and that it's not out of hand. So I will take personal responsibility for that. Are there any questions or comments from the council on this matter?
will what's there be visible, or is it,
No.
this be closed?
No, there are windows on either side of the garage, but you have to want to see what's in the garage to see what's in the garage. So,
Will there be any storage of fuel at all?
no, no. It'll just be equipment, it'll be things like the holiday stars, maybe the lawnmower, a couple of things that are currently outside of the DPW site in the weather, because it doesn't have interior space for them.
Will there be vehicles?
No vehicles, yeah. Just be equipment, smaller equipment, mowers and things like that. All right,
Happy to make the motion.
okay, great. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of letting Lester have the garage? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We also talked about the Clausen property. You know, we've now owned this property for several months. I don't remember when did we purchase it? In the spring. Oh, so more than several months, but almost a year now. And I don't recall at any particular point anyone sort of formally opening it up to the public. And so we talked a little bit about this, and I think the feeling is that we would just like the public to know that for passive recreation, for the time being, until we get a site plan, people are welcome to go up onto the Clausen property, bearing a couple of things in mind. You know, we're just going to do kind of a dawn to dusk thing at the moment. Councilman Stegman suggested that we keep this pedestrian access only, and I think that's a great idea. We will put signs up asking people not to enter the barns. And what else did I have? Let's see. And also just a reminder that really Cow Hill is the best hill for sledding. It's the safest, it's got the hay bales. There are a number of other hills on the property that go into the creek or whatever. We want as much as possible to for children to enjoy themselves, but not to be, you know, doing crazy, dangerous things like children sometimes do. So there's no guarantees on this one. We'll put a few signs up and encourage them to make good decisions.
And this will just, Mayor,
Yeah.
this will just be for the outside, not the buildings.
Correct, yeah, no buildings. Although I would like to either myself or maybe somebody from the Historic Society maybe offer some tours of the Holcomb House in the spring. It's such a splendid place that I would love to see, you know, maybe 9 or 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, 3 or 4 people go up and take a look at it. It's really, really an amazing building. So we'll consider that as well, yeah.
If I might suggest, is maybe the Historical Society could mount an exhibit in the building with historical shots of not only the city, but focused on the history of that building as well.
I think that's a fine idea. Does anybody have any concerns or questions about that?
And then we could have, it could be, you know, it's like the Marshall House is used.
Right.
And perhaps we can do, or they could do some kind of fundraiser in there, or maybe.
Well, let's not get too far ahead of the game. I think
25 cents to get it.
I thought it would be a great mayoral residence personally, but I didn't get very far with that one. Okay, so I'll talk to the Historical Society about that and report back next month. But if everybody's in favor of just kind of formally opening it up to the public for passive recreation, kind of motion, please, to do that.
Oh, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, second?
Second?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Could we, it might be a good idea to put on the website, or just to somehow publish, A, to let folks know, but then B, also, could we
Yep.
have parameters around this, around the time,
Yep.
location, so,
Right.
just some sort of notice to the public as to what our
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
put something together.
Yeah.
And,
That's
And
great.
even if it's included on the walking tour,
Yeah,
you know, this
Yeah.
coming year too.
yeah, great. That's a good idea. We'll take care of that. We are looking at potentially reopening our Facebook account. So we're having some conversations about that. We've touched base already. I've touched base with all the council people. This is going to be a little bit of a process. We're not just going to restart it. Mr. Opal was kind enough to send us a policy, a social media policy that he wrote for another city, another municipality. So we're going to take a look at that, and we'll probably make a decision about this by early March. I am very much in favor of potentially doing this, but also doing it in a way that is very clear about what our expectations are, and yeah, just clear about our expectations. My thoughts about using Facebook, if we get back to it, is using it really for a very standard form of communication, announcements, emergency announcements, JCP and LA Power's gonna be out for another 2 hours, that kind of thing. No interest in politicizing it or making it a place where people can comment on policy. I mean, I just don't think that's going to work for us probably. I mean, it may, but anyway, we're looking at it. We'll take some time to look at this policy. We'll have some discussion about it. Maybe we'll talk about it kind of in a more conversational or formal way at our next working session meeting. But we are considering it. Okay. Any comments about that from, or thoughts or questions from?
We don't have to do it today, but I would like to get a sense, if I could, from the staff, like Cindy and others who would be responsible for this. You guys work awfully hard, and, I would wonder how much time would need to be devoted to this, because I know you do the posting, but then there's, Oprah requests, so like what the burden is to the staff is, I think, going to be an important part of the consideration.
Honestly, I think that this would be a better communication tool if it's used correctly, and would probably decrease the number of phone calls that we get.
Yeah, no,
So
it's
the
used as a
trade-off would end up being.
And I think its roots originally, we used it at first just to because it was a crisis and there was the
Yes.
flood, and we rolled it out as a new mechanism to provide notice, and it serves a really great, and it's very effective at that. So
I think it would be manageable.
Okay.
Good question. All right, to be continued. We've also talked a little bit about public engagement and public comment. I feel strongly that it's important to establish rules and expectations and to do it formally. And that allows the public to communicate, I think, effectively, and it allows us to accept communication efficiently. In December, when I was not yet sworn in, the mayor-elect, and there were many emails coming to council and individual council members, and I think that the council does an admirable job responding to people, and I think that written communication in particular is important. I'm always happy to do it when I have time, but there are moments when council is getting, one week I got 30 emails that really felt like they had to be responsibly, carefully responded to. And so, you look at those emails and you think, oh, that didn't take too long, but then you look at the timestamp and see it's at 5:15 in the morning or whatever, right? So the council is very diligent about public comment and very responsive, I think. But I think that it would be good for us to really formalize kind of a process. And it's not meant to inhibit comment or anything like that. It's just there as a tool for everyone to have expectations about how they can communicate, what our response time would be. There's all kinds of things, right? So Ward has already started to kind of send around some ideas to me, and we'll distribute those, and I think that we could maybe have a conversation about that in our working session as well. Are there any comments or questions at the moment?
So are we really talking about policy around how council responds to public input?
Potentially. So,
Yeah.
you and I talked a little bit about this. So, I mean, one example would be, if a member of the public writes an email to one council member or the whole council about an item that's on an agenda, say someone's writing in favor of something, maybe that would get forwarded to me. I would respond, thank you, we've received this, and then that notation with the name and the fact that that person's in favor of a particular thing would then be added to the record, right? So there would be Mr. Smith is in favor of agenda item 5, boom, we'll just keep it there, and then it's memorialized in the minutes. I mean, there's a lot of different ways we can do this, and I think that we're off to a good start with some of Councilman Sanders' ideas, and I'm certainly open to hearing from everybody else on this.
And just to be clear, Mayor, but part of this is the public comment process for the meetings as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
To create expectations and clarify that process.
Right. A couple of the examples you mentioned were, in a group setting like this where we only have, 10 people, maybe, we have 40 people online. So, maybe we ask by a raise of hands how many people might speak tonight, and then we could potentially allow a little bit more time or a little less time. Or, there's a lot of different ways we can approach
Yeah, I mean, I think for public comment here, if we're gonna have a policy, we have to have a policy.
Right.
I'm not in favor of
Okay,
like.
that's fine, I'm fine with that.
Maybe this and maybe that, and I'm certainly in favor of however we wanna set up for our response times and things, but the example you used, I think, is potentially not feasible. The level of work required to forward, make sure someone's documenting, who's documenting, and I'm not sure that it's necessary either. Like, I'm not sure everybody who writes in wants their name in the minutes. So we just need to think about
Well,
what people's intention is.
yeah, we can talk about this. I mean, when people write in,
It's
what
operable.
what they've said is a matter of public record, right? So, you know, if anything, it might, well, I don't want to get into this conversation right now. I think that we should talk about this, and I think that we should continue to kind of bat ideas around. Certainly, if the public has any ideas about this, you're welcome to send them to me, and we will do our best to incorporate them. But a policy, I think, is important. So stay tuned for that. The other thing I have, I think, on the agenda is a hazard mitigation committee. Just throwing this out there. Over the coming months, I'm committed to working with the city council, residents, and experts to establish a standing committee that will assist the governing body and the community in the necessary work of mitigation, education, resiliency planning in order to better prepare us for future events. I just want to emphasize that at present, this idea is in its broadest possible form. And over the coming months, with community input and proper process, we might begin to formulate kind of the mission and scope and responsibilities. I do think that, you know, after Ida, it's incumbent upon us to better prepare ourselves for future events. And not only prepare ourselves for future events, but to mitigate against future events. And, you know, this is something that I feel very strongly about. So, you know, it's going to be a little bit of a process. I want to make sure that everybody's involved and has conversation and that everybody agrees on what the scope of it is and what the mission is. So, so we'll be talking about this also in the months ahead. Are there any comments or questions about that? I don't know what it's going to be called either. I just threw, this is just a placeholder, this name.
Well, the only comment that I had, until we know exactly what happened, there's really, I don't know if the city is in a position where it can get all the information together that's out there in one study, so to speak.
Well, this is not really well, and that may or may not be an element of it. But, you know, I'm thinking of, you know, a committee that of people potentially that are looking at, you know, mitigation efforts that Army Corps of Engineers projects that, you know, maybe revisiting certain large-scale mitigation efforts. There's a lot of different things that we can do that don't necessarily rely on just the data from this past storm, right? So,
Well, my only concern is that if we don't know, and I think we know this, though some people know it, we don't know why the water did what it did in that volume of water, then what is there to, how do we mitigate it going forward to not have something as brutal happen? And because, you know, the fear is, and I've heard this from folks, that this is not, it's not going to be an isolated incident going forward. And if you mitigate, let's not talk about the river for this. The river's a little different animal. But if, you know, if we don't figure out a way to slow down the water coming down the hills, then, you know, we know what happens.
well, I mean, one of the things that this group could do would be to, you know, take a look at the stormwater utility, right? I mean, so we're talking about stormwater here in this case, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I want us to be open-minded, at least while we're beginning this process, to the possibility that, you know, that not all of this is going to fall on the mayor and the city council, because when jobs of this magnitude fall to 5 or 6 people who have jobs and who are busy, you know, things don't happen, right? So anyway.
And I think to your point, Steve, I mean, there's gonna, whatever we do from however we get funding to do the mitigation projects, we're gonna have to justify it with data and facts, and so there's no getting around having some sort of data. I think the idea is just that, and this committee is not gonna take the place of whatever experts we would need to pull that together. They might be evaluating it, reviewing it, then using it.
Yeah, and I know that Council President Taylor has expressed interest in the importance of pulling together data from IDA and mapping and really looking at this holistically, what happened. And, you know, we have some of that data, I think, in the storm reports, in the damage reports. So this is a project I think is really worth undertaking.
Well, I think what Steve's talking about, sorry, Councilman Stegman.
That's okay.
I think what Councilman Stegman's talking about is not so much the damage reports, but like how, we're gonna need to get some information to tell us about, you know, rates of flow and what's happening regionally with the runoff.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there's no disagreement here.
Right.
We're all
Yeah.
saying
Yeah, no, absolutely.
different pieces of the same process.
Yeah. Just our first fight?
No.
I'm teasing.
Probably not the last.
No.
I just, you know, to me, it's something we clearly need to take a serious approach on. And I would have lots of questions, but until we get into that discussion,
Right.
you know, some of those questions will rise up and they'll resolve themselves, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
And there was terrible, I'm not complaining, unbelievable what I saw, and we all saw during that and after that event. But there was also, you know, water flow damage to houses on the hill before the water got here. So I think we have an ordinance about managing stormwater from property to property, because I had damage in my basement, more water than I've ever had, that sort of thing. So it's a citywide concern, and if we can slow, as Councilwoman Taylor said, you know, just figure out, go through that level of detail and get some data behind it. I think it'll be just part of a huge puzzle we're going to put together.
Part of that puzzle too may be, you know, we had lots of people here who had experiences, people with cameras, you know, so I know Judy at 86 North Union Street had said that, you know, maybe there's an opportunity for a volunteer effort to collect those stories that might help inform, you know, it's going to be a large project, but that, you know, sort of the crowdsourcing information and timing of information might be helpful for, you know, whatever mitigation efforts and understanding the nature of the problem.
But I think there were also aerial shots. I haven't seen any, but I heard anecdotally that there were aerial shots done of the city the next day. And so there's a lot out there that I think we should start pulling together.
Okay, anybody else, any last comments on that? All right, so we will move on to correspondence. Jersey Central Power and Light, BPU docket number E0211011182, petition for JCP&L for approval of a change to its zero emission certificate recovery charge.
It means the BPU is holding a public hearing to raise rates, and they're calling it, and they're going to raise the recovery charge rate. It's a public notice, but we should let people know.
Thank you. Now announcements. The convenience center convenience center is closed for the winter and will reopen in March and April, weather permitting. Pet licenses expired on 12/31/2021. Registration fees increase after February 28, 2022. Just a couple of other.
To make a note, thank you, that the notices, when I have 2 dogs, so I got notices from the city, first time I ever, you know, electronic transmission of that, so it's a good reminder. I appreciate the efforts there, modernizing our notice system.
That's all, Mike.
So Dolly is no longer a scofflaw.
Oh, no, she's still a scofflaw. So I got the notice.
Just not a leak.
I'll be able to send my dog down itself.
There you go, wouldn't that be nice? All right, moving on through the announcements. Cherry Street, the North Union Street Park, a couple of things here. This work will be done in the spring. We need to do some cleanup work there. We've known this since Ida. There's a lot of broken glass and small bits of plastic and all kinds of things. Marion Borges of Parks and Rec is generating a bid for the cleanup and reseeding of this property, and I expect that this will be done in the early to mid-spring, hopefully the early spring. So we will keep you updated on that. Additionally, Marion Borges is seeking a $20,000 grant from Sustainable Jersey to plant trees at Cherry Street. The City Council is collaborating with Marianne and re-examining the existing site plans. Open public meetings will be held to provide further information, answer questions, and get feedback. So this is really just an initial announcement about something that may happen. We'll probably have more information about it next month, but I just wanted to get it out there. Okay. Last two announcements, the CAT. I've decided to suspend the CAT for the time being until such time as the City Council may wish to re-examine its function and the process by which members may be appointed. This group is, you know, to my mind, I have to say, generated some unfair controversy as somebody who volunteered on the CAT for 150 hours and worked really closely with 18 other residents. I was sad to sort of understand that some people in the community viewed the CAT as kind of a political arm of the last administration. Be that as it may, I think that it warrants me stopping it for the time being. I do think that at a minimum, if we restart the CAT, we need to go through the normal process. I did write to all the members of the CAT in December before I made this final announcement, and encouraged anyone who wanted to stay on the CAT to send me a brief, paragraph or two about why they wanted to do that. And I told them that if we moved ahead with the CAT, that we would go through the regular, almost like a board or a commission, where everybody would be approved by the council, where the mission would be generated by the council, etc. So for the time being, I put that on hold, and we'll see where we go with that. I think that its function in a lot of ways was very helpful to the city, and I think it evolved, and I think it improved, and I was very proud and pleased to work with these people who were very smart and very dedicated. But for the time being, it's on hold. Are there any questions or comments about that? And just lastly, our next working session is Tuesday, February 1st at 7 o'clock in this room. Mr. Opal will have the night off, and it's my hope that the City Council will be able to hold monthly working sessions without need of professionals. So I would really love to get back to one meeting a month where we're just thinking and talking and working through things that do not require an enormous brain trust beyond our own. So hopefully that'll happen every month. There may be months where we actually need to when there's a lot of work in front of us, when we need to do two meetings a month. But for the time being, this is how we're gonna proceed. And that is the end of the announcements. At this point, I'd like to open this meeting up for public participation. My idea of using surnames got a little, what was it?
Blowback?
Blowback, thank you. Blowback.
Just
So I'm happy to rescind that, and we'll just continue to address residents by their first names. If you'd rather be called by your surname, let me know, and I'll refer to you as your surname, but otherwise it's just Judy and Paul and whoever else is in Dave and whoever else is in the room. So, it was a very short-lived idea, but that's okay, sometimes they are. So I now open this up for public participation. We will start with people in the room, and then we'll move to people online. Is there anybody in the, yes, you, ma'am. Judy.
I was gonna say, you could call Judy Gleason, 86 North Union Street.
Do you, Cindy, do we want,
We do have the
Oh,
speaker on
okay.
over there.
for the
I looked around this part of the room and I didn't see it. Am I supposed to be using this microphone?
It'll pick up your
It'll
voice,
pick up?
yeah.
Okay, just as we were going through all the things that you were covering, I picked up on several things that I would seek clarification on or information on. So what I thought I might do is just go right through them, and then you can go back and tell me what the answer is if we know them. So the first thing was where Fisherman's Mark is, and if they're still at the at the farm stand, they don't have any heat there, I don't think, and I just wondered about that. You don't have to answer that right now. Second thing was, I think we would like to know what the cost of this Zoom is, because number one, we have budget issues to be aware of, and number two, and this is my next thing, there's many people who believe that Zooming other important meetings like the planning board and stuff would be critically important as the city works through certain items where a lot of people are affected or concerned. So the Zooming of other meetings. The next thing is, I'm sure, but I don't ever know for sure, insurance for access to the Clausen property by residents is something that I'm sure somebody's taking care of, but if you haven't, I'm encouraging you to do that. The care of the buildings and the property, I don't know how that's being assigned or doing, or whether citizens will be asked to participate or do stuff, but care of that property as we're figuring out what we need to do with it, especially after we get into the spring, I think we probably should think about now rather than in the spring. The convenience center is still needed by residents who are cleaning up stuff and doing things and taking care of things in their yards and in their areas, and if we don't have a convenience center where we can take these materials that we can't do anything with, I'm just asking that we remember the convenience center is used because people are collecting things in their little patches of ground and they need a place to put it. And the last thing is back to, I had written to all of you earlier in the year, and Ward identified that a moment ago. I really think you can get volunteers to help collect human information of what happened when the hurricane went through. What happened on York Street for people who did not leave their homes when they said you have to leave, and that they were okay or they weren't okay? What happened in different parts of town? The only people who really know what happened, in some cases, are the people who were there, and it's information that I think will be very helpful to add in with the scientific and geographic and water movement and everything else. And if the council would decide they wanted to do this, I think we could get people to do it for you, with you, as part of it. So that was my stuff.
Thank you. I've got all those things. So I have a monthly standing meeting with Jen Williford. I will talk to her about the heat. I'm not aware of it. What's that?
They have heat.
Okay, yeah, I was not aware of it being a problem.
Okay.
The cost of Zoom, we will get that number for you. Do you know offhand, Cindy, what it is?
Offhand, well, no, actually, because what really drives the cost up of Zoom is a webinar.
Right.
If we don't need to use the webinar feature, and we're trying this out, then, and we've reduced it down to 2 accounts rather than we had to have 4 before because of all the boards and everything. So I believe with that in mind, I think we're down to $100 a month.
Oh.
So we've drastically, we took it from, it was over 600, and we've been very mindful, Sue, correct? So, when we have to do a webinar, then that's what drives the cost up. So, right now, we're trying to keep it under 100. Tonight's was set up as a meeting, so we're trying some different things to keep that cost low.
Good, thank you.
I do think though, of course, as concerned as the next person about the budget, but I think it's critical that we provide this service. And if we can expand it beyond council, I think that we should do that. So $100 is great, and I applaud all those efforts. If it's $200 a month, that doesn't bother me personally either, but we had been told, I thought that it was
5,000.
like $6,900 a year.
It was, because the CAT had to have their own because they conflicted with both of the other.
Okay.
We had to have a meeting, we have 2 nights out of every month where you have 2, sometimes 3 boards that meet. So we had to have 3 separate accounts.
And then the webinars.
And the webinars.
It's about $500.
Yeah,
It's
so
about
it
$500.
was, but
Okay.
what we did is we did away with the webinar feature. We enacted only if we need it, and we cut out, we're down to 2 accounts, Zoom 1 and Zoom 2. Right now, it's working. If we go back into another COVID situation, that may change. But if we can keep it, and even if the other boards did this, and use Zoom, because I know the library does. If they did it, I think we could still manage it with 2 accounts, as long as we don't use the webinar feature.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, especially where the notices go out, in the planning board and zoning board. I mean, the notices go out to, people within 200 feet, and I've never seen, and I've been also asked that question. So
And we
it would
can
be-
easily, this meeting out, which people have seen the way it works, and it's operating right now if anyone wants to see it. But this can be engaged for those meetings too, so it's easy for people to see everything that's going on any computer.
Okay. I'm open to the idea. I'm happy to talk with council about it. I don't see any reason why we couldn't give it a try. Obviously, we've got meetings in the evenings. I'm not sure, Bill, is it possible that poses any kind of issue in terms of like planning board meetings or people testifying or that kind of thing?
Not right now.
No, okay.
The meetings have all been noticed in the newspaper for the scheduled date and that they're in person, but for each meeting and for each hearing for those meetings, a separate notice will go out.
Mhm.
And if the board as long as they're still meeting in person, they can just head the line that there will also be a Zoom link available for the meeting to that notice, and that won't create an issue.
All right.
And we'll be able to take testimony from questions, just like we do here, from the public at the boards.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I was at the library meeting when they did it, and
Yeah.
it was quite effective. So, yeah, I mean, I think if we can get access and it's not, and it's not too much trouble. I mean, there are a lot of boards, there's a lot of evenings, there's a lot going on, and, right off the top of my head, I would have a little potential concern just about scheduling and who's got access to the Zoom account and this and that. But give us a couple of weeks, we'll come back to you in early February, and we'll talk about it. Maybe we will have even been able to kind of rough it out by then. But I think it's a good idea. Moving on, insurance at the Clausen site, we are insured, so no problem with that. We're fully insured there. Care of the buildings, I have been going up to the buildings at least once or twice a week, going in, turning the water back on, checking the systems, making sure the heat's good, making sure the building is secured, walking the perimeter. So I've been doing that at least once a week and often twice a week in very cold weather. We do shut off the water in each of the houses. I'll go in, I'll turn it on, I'll flush the toilets, I'll run the water, then I'll shut the water off and go out. So we are looking after the buildings in the winter. I do a walk through a couple of the barns and that kind of thing. So, this is probably not sustainable for the mayor to do, and maybe we'll get a volunteer to do it. I've already had a couple people who volunteered to do that, and I have no problem with that, but I actually like going up there for the moment. It's my quiet place. No, I'm not going to run into any residents on the second floor of the Clausen farm, the Clausen house.
Well, you may, but they may be
I
transparent.
better not.
They may be transparent. I would only,
Go ahead.
based on my past life, when I was in the plumbing business, it would be great to be able to have some type of, if funds are available, and make these site improvements, to be able to know if there's a problem at the houses with it, because you could leave
You're right.
and shut the water off, and the
Yeah.
pipe could freeze,
Yeah.
and then when you go to turn it back on to test it. So just some kind of monitoring system, where, it's one thing to turn the water off and to drain the system
Yeah.
and wait until the spring,
Yeah.
than it is just to shut it off like you're on vacation kind of thing. Not saying it's a bad thing, it's better than leaving it on.
Right. Yeah.
But just some kind of monitoring system that we could look into and it's just those two buildings. The other, it's the old house and the log home.
Hang on just a second, Dave, I'll let you speak in a minute. I just want to get through this list. The convenience center, yes, we did close it, I think, in January and February. I think the thinking was that people were done with their leaves in January. I still have a bunch of my courtyard, which I haven't done, but they're going to wait until March or April now. So we might revisit that, but for now, I've directed Lester to pick up all the bags of leaves this week, and if a resident has something that they want picked up, we'll make at this point, we'll just make we'll make a trip. In fact, I removed your bag of leaves from in front of your house the other day because I was tired of not having it done. It felt like an epic battle between me and the universe, the city government, and kind of what was supposed to happen. And then the last thing, I think volunteers are great, and I would love to, I'm not sure how we're going to organize this yet, but I think it would be fantastic. I did talk to a couple of friends at one point about, doing some video interviews with people about IDA, their experiences. I think there's so much out there. And the question is, and I haven't given this much thought to the structure, how would we organize that? So if anybody has any ideas about that now or later, feel free to give me a call.
And I offered at one of the December meetings, not to do it all, but to be a point person. So if, Judy, if you want to do that, the offer still stands.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
are there other members of the public who wish to speak at this time? If so, please step up to the podium.
You go first?
Yeah. You could state your name and address for the record, and then your question or comment.
How you guys doing? Kevin Coolahan. I'm here on behalf of my brother-in-law, who's actually 115 York Street. I'm a builder. I saw you guys a few years ago. I developed 172 York Street. So if you guys are familiar with that spot in town, he's on the, I guess, Eli Creek there. And I know this is, like you're saying, there's a large puzzle put together for this issue. And we don't expect anything overnight, but his particular issue is one that is pressing almost every time it rains still. So we, right after the storm, the entire creek bed flooded into his lawn. This is their first home, my brother and sister-in-law. The home was built in 2014, so it's a brand new home in town. So for that amount of damage and water, I luckily own an excavation company and have dump trucks. And we did all the cleanup ourselves and tried to channel the stream personally, but in doing so, we probably have saved future floods already from the past several rains, thaws, and that kind of thing. So we just wanted to get on the map with you guys about that issue there. Additionally, they have a main gas line that's waving back and forth in the creek that's been covered up by the gas company, but it's a very crude fix. So that, their main sewer, I myself paid $6,000, in a connection fee when I built that home at 172 York Street. So those monies, should go towards stuff like that. You guys are aware of that. I'm not, you guys do a fabulous job. It's a fabulous city. And we just wanted to, offer what was going on with their brand new house up there, and they're worried every time it rains. So I think that little piece of creek needs to be dealt with before this large puzzle, for the huge flood study that, obviously is probably coming with the city. But, I'm pretty, knowledgeable with engineering, building. I've developed right on that street, so it wasn't like anything as anybody has seen before, but the aftermath now, it's so damaged that just a little bit of rain is threatening those 6 or 7 houses on that bend, and it's kind of a forgotten about little section of town. So
are you done, Kevin?
yes, sir.
So those are the houses that you have to cross a bridge to get to. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I thought was it you or you? I met?
I met you at like 8 a.m. as you and
Right.
Lieutenant
Yeah. So we were out
Yeah, I saw you
on
there.
December 10th along that stretch of Ely Creek with engineers from the USDA, Natural Resource Conservation Service, and our city engineer. So that whole stretch all the way from 179 is going to be reconstructed. The gable walls will be repaired. The creek there will be dredged. Debris will be removed. The USDA, however, will not. They have certain criteria. Their criteria are the stretch of creek or waterway has to be within 50 feet of an infrastructure, but they won't work in private property. So for what you did, it was good that you did it because we weren't going to be able to get funding for that. But for everything that's along the road, we haven't received the authorization yet. We're really expecting it. We were expecting it. They told us December 27th, but it hasn't come yet. And I'll be following up with them in the next week or so. We expect that that whole section of Ely Creek, kind of on the other side going up, will be completely reconstructed. Once we get that authorization, we have 220 days to finish that work. So it's something that I'm very mindful of it. In fact, I've walked along that stretch of road a couple of
Yeah,
times.
and we were, Mike had mentioned that, and we're very grateful for that. We just wanted to voiced that concern, because all of his main utilities cross that bridge, and the bridge is shifted. So his main sewer, his main water, which is in an insulated pipe, all that stuff, is stuff that is, on city easement. So
Right.
I think that should be, all we're doing is voicing concern. I'm not saying get out there tomorrow and fix it, but Mike and I wanted you guys to just be aware of the extent of that damage that's still, threatening to, if that water breaches, it comes through the Bilco doors and flooded their brand basement. So,
I'll, if you're around on Saturday morning, I'll stop up and take a look.
thank you so much for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you. On top of that, Judy, I believe, right?
Can you come to the, if you're gonna speak, can you come to the microphone and just, give us your name and the address?
We're just gonna add, I thought that was a good idea, collecting the info or whatever.
Give your name and address first.
Oh, Michael Harriet, 115 York Street. We moved in May, and then Ida, and then got married 2 weeks later in Washington's Crossing at Kevin's house, actually, and that was underwater from Ida 2 weeks before the wedding. So it was quite a stretch, but we saw firsthand was in York Street, and we're the last house on the right when you're going up the hill, but what happens in our, the creek that I saw you before you even took office, so was thrilled to see that. It dictates the damage of so many people, everyone downhill basically, as you know. So the 6-foot deep creek is now 12 inches. So it's one of those where it's like, we're the first in line, but next door is selling, everything goes downhill. But we just had no information on the 22 projects or whatnot and what the timeline was, so this gives us more. But Kevin is very much my eyes and ears, and am I good? And so Kevin is my, but I thought that was a great idea. We have hundreds of videos, but house was built in 2014. I was nervous. Yeah, I was definitely, big bodies of water moving that fast down York Street. And the other thing I wanted to add is, and I don't really know what the McMansions are, but a lot of blame from people who have lived there long before me say new development went in 5 or 6 years ago, and all the runoff is into a very small creek that again was 6 feet, now 12 inches. So I'm not looking for information on that, but I'm just saying, this is before you had any power or I even knew about it. But that seems to be a common theme that I'm hearing. So I don't know what the resolution is, but it seems like runoff shouldn't be going in there, but McMansions are to blame. I don't even know where that is.
Yeah, well, I couldn't trace the water back to that particular development myself. I don't know, maybe that's where it originates. Certainly, we know that these kind of larger scale developments often have, and we know that they were built at a certain time, and they're now kind of inadequately designed in terms of stormwater management for the kind of levels of rain that the mid-Atlantic is now receiving.
We don't know that.
We don't know.
We want to make sure of
Yeah,
that.
no, that's what I said. I said I wasn't sure, but I was just saying, also, we do know that developments, larger scale developments, they generate a lot of issues in terms of the environment, stormwater management, that kind of thing.
I have a question for the home.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the big one is the getting the Elizabethtown gas out there to deal with that a little
Yeah.
better than throwing 3 sandbags on it.
Yeah.
He's got a half-inch PEX line, it's his main high-pressure gas line, swinging back and forth in the water when the water comes up.
Okay.
So I know we're waiting for funding, but
Also, go-to meeting, $17 a month, and for your separate groups, $5 a month for every group, up to 500 people on the Zoom. That's what we use instead of Zoom, so go-to meeting, worth exploring. I can talk to you much later about
Can
that.
you send me an
Thank you.
email tomorrow?
Absolutely.
And I'll make the connection to Elizabethtown Gas.
Thank you guys
But
so
we consciously went that avenue because exactly what you guys have explained.
I have a question for the
Okay.
resident. Ken?
Sure.
this is Michael, the resident of Kevin. If you want me to come back up to the
I'll
podium?
be Kevin if you want. It doesn't
I
matter.
have one question.
Sure.
So your house on York backs up to the highway?
Correct.
So you're
Correct.
getting water from Washington
We will-
Street, 179, and that has been, over the years, that has been mitigated to some level
Yeah.
update.
It does look like that, yeah.
2016 or 17, when
Yeah.
I bought the lot at 172, they fixed some, there was
Right.
avions and stuff, but it stops right at his house.
Okay, I just want to get a handle on where it is. And-
Yeah, but all that is now completely filled in, and that creek is a 6-inch deep,
And the-
30-foot wide brook. So,
We can take it offline.
you can go ahead
Oh,
and
yeah.
go on.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Are there other members of the
Thank
public in the room who would like to, Mr. Byrd?
I just asked a simple question. Is there electric at the house that you go in and inspect?
Yes.
Then I'll
Okay.
Dave Bird, 255 Brunswick Avenue, and I want to follow up with what Steve had to say and to help you with your job. I hate to spend money, but I've helped a neighbor, all right, whose house is vacant for extended periods, all right, and for $100 a year, all right, and the purchase of a device that costs $225, all right, will be monitored 24/7, 365, and send out 9 text, email, or voice messages on temperature, humidity, or power loss. And it addresses, Steve, exactly what you're talking about. You know, if somebody comes in and looks once a week, that's okay, but something could happen in between. And so for 1 or 2 places, it's something you may want to look into. And I don't get any commission, but I'm glad to share information, and we may be able to get it at somewhat of a discount.
If you could forward me the information, Dave, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
And actually,
Temperature, what else?
Temperature, humidity, and power.
there's
Alright.
also, and I found this out anecdotally and then firsthand through someone who I work with, there are sensors you can put on the floor near, in, say, a bathroom or a kitchen that will call a number if they detect water.
Steve, I didn't want to spend, all right, you could put a pod off the same thing, but that costs another $25. But if you want to do that, you can, all right, because it'll also detect that moisture.
I'll pay the $25.
Thank you. All right, anyone else in the room have a public comment? All right, how about online?
No.
Really? Quiet group over there.
Oh, we do now. Suzanne Gitterman?
Okay.
Hi, this is Suzanne Jeter at 73 Clinton Street. Welcome, Mayor, and good luck to the council on the new year. Couple things. I'm thrilled that you are continuing to have Zoom representation of these meetings. It really, as everyone has said, really helps. I'm glad that we're able to do it somewhat cheaply. But I am sad that the CAT has been put on hold because I thought that I'm surprised that people think there's some conspiratorial nature to CAT. It was a robust group, really bright people, and it was a really efficient way of getting a wide range of public input into very important issues, which is what I thought we wanted to do. And so, Mayor, I know you're going to put it on hold. I just hope it's not one of those things that goes adrift and we don't get back to, because I felt my voice was heard through the CAT and those presentations were excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
No other comments, ma'am?
Okay. May I have a motion to close the public comment period?
So moved?
May I have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We will adjourn the meeting at 8:14, looks like. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming.